Here we are. We're live on a Friday afternoon for me, Friday morning for those of us in the new world, or those of them in the new world. And a law.
Uh-oh.
A little technical difficulty. Yeah. It's to be expected in a worldwide thing, you know?
Exactly. Am I back? I should be back. Oh, no, we're gone. Jonathan, tell us about remote ID. You guys carry on. The internet will probably keep working for you.
So there was a petition filed in the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals, and that was filed some months ago. The brief was what we just filed the other day. It was like 70 pages. The appendix is over 1,000 pages, and the addenda is like, I don't know, 18 pages or something like that. So we just filed that yesterday, and that basically lays out the argument why we think remote identification is illegal on multiple points.
So do you get extra money for lots and lots of pages? Surely you could have done it in one page or one line. It's rubbish. Why does it need to be unpacked? Why does it need to be unpacked at such a level of detail?
How do you think lawyers make money, Gary? No.
Well, per word, obviously, but no. But I mean, are you having to argue some really fine, nuanced things?
It's more like the breadth of what happened here. So, for example, the rulemaking when it happened, there was 53,000 comments. So we had analyzed those, and a lot. What made up the appendix at 1,000 pages is made up of. I mean, just the FAA stuff alone is over like 600 pages of just there. So there's a bunch of comments. Now that stuff is not what I had authored, right? Clear on that, but that is what we had compiled and sent to the court basically to show that the FAA was on notice of numerous legal and factual issues, right? So it's not like $1,000 pages for John to charge a bunch. It was, here's 1,000 pages of information. The FAA was very well aware of certain issues because multiple commenters had pointed out legal deficiencies, factual inaccuracies. So that's probably the best way to think of that. It's 1,000 pages of evidence that we're using against the FAA, which is about 78 pages long, is where we tie it all together with legal case law, arguing, hey, Fourth Amendment, that this is unreasonable searches all the time on people. It's unlimited in duration. It's also tracking people at their homes without a warrant, without suspicion. We have that going on. We have that the notice and comment that happened, the proposal that the proposal that was proposed, right, in the NPRM, what came out in the final rule did not match up. There were two new things that were introduced in regards to that. It was a GPS switcheroo where they went from the pressure altimeter to a GPS derived altimeter setting that had within 15 feet accuracy, which is extremely accurate, right? The DoD Constellation, that thing is between, I think it was like 48 feet to around 100 feet of accuracy. So the DoD doesn't even provide this level of service. So to say that you were kind of on notice going, well, maybe they switch over to GPS. Even if you were to do that, it went above and beyond into this really crazy level of accuracy. I mean, that's just one example there. But there's other numerous failure to response that FAA never addressed, such as in that 1,000-page appendix, we cite commenters, but one of them was specifically arguing that from a constitutional standpoint, Article 1, Section 8 gives the federal government power to regulate interstate commerce. And that was defined under the Lopez case. This one commenter, who was a lawyer, actually specifically cited how the remote identification comply with that case, those 3 points. So the FAA was extremely on notice of these legal deficiencies. It wasn't like a big mention, right? We went through the cases, the comments, and found attorneys and people actually specifically citing regulations, citing cases. And so that was clearly on notice of these issues. They did not respond to any of the substantive legal issues that were raised, such as this is a violation of the First Amendment, beyond the Commerce Clause, this is beyond their statutory authority to regulate. The FAA has failed to present any safety data. for the benefits of remote identification or of the evils it's trying to prohibit, right? So there's a whole bunch of lack of information they did not put in the final rule and responding to significant comments. And sometimes, and there was 2 examples where we included where they did respond, but they didn't respond with any reasoning. They gave a mere conclusory statement saying that expanding eligibility for the FAA recognized identification areas to people like flying home, right? Where you fly your drones, right? At home in your backyard. But then the FAA is like, that would undermine things. You just use the word undermine and then move on, but they don't explain why would it undermine. So
What's it undermine?
It's a complete conclusory statement without any reasoning, and which is arbitrary and capricious.
Yeah, there's lots of issues.
Well, but now Tyler from Race Day Quads is the chap that's causing all this trouble. Let phones tap him and forever now. But I think I understand he's suing them both from a Race Day Quads point of view and from a personal point of view. Is that I might have the wrong wording here, but there's 2 actions in this. Over to you, Jonathan.
Oh, okay. I was like, hey, that's a good question, Tyler. What do you have to say about anyway? So two reasons why. One, Tyler in his personal capacity, right, where there's a 4th Amendment protection, right, and then there's also from a business aspect, right. So that because if you're starting to raise questions regarding like personal liberties and certain things like that when you're an actual business entity, right, you don't. So there's some issues there. So that's why to preclude attacks from those certain angles, just from saying like a Race Day Quads business setup, right? We're arguing also that it's Tyler in his personal capacity as well as a flyer in his backyard.
And now, Tyler, this is very brave to do this, isn't it? What's pushed you so hard to this action? In reality, I mean, it's quite a thing to stand up against the man.
I don't know. I've always, if you ever knew me in my personal life, it probably isn't super surprising that I'm doing this. I don't know. I've always, I've never really been scared of anything, and maybe that's probably because I'm young and brash and I don't really know any better. And
speak for yourself,
exactly. But no, I mean, I obviously think that this is a super concerning thing that affects and like every time I explain it to friends, they're like, well, I don't fly drones. And I'm like, okay, well, have you ever flown an RC plane? Ever had an air hog as a kid? Does your kid fly anything? You know, is your kid a hobbyist? I'm like, oh yeah, my kid, he's got a little RC thing from the toy store. We go to the park and fly it around. I'm like, okay, great. That is going to have a broadcast module on it that broadcasts where your kid's airplane is flying and where your kid is. And he's like, wait, what? I'm like, yeah, all right. And so that kind of all ties it together. And so this is not, I've always seen this as not, sure, we're fighting. We come from the FPV background, but before this, I came from an RC background, flew large scale, like RC aerobatic planes and stuff. So, and then before that, I did like STEM work in schools and things. So, you know, I've always saw this as a really wide overarching thing that is going to not just affect FPV, but also literally all hobbyists for generations to come, where it not only creates multiple privacy and safety issues on behalf of the hobbyist, but also raises the barrier to entry. And so, you know, if I'm in a position as a 27-year-old kid to kind of like drum up support and try to get a community to rally behind this, which they have, you know, our GoFundMe right now has just under $67,000 donated to it. Then heck, you know, let's do it. So for me, it was not, you know, why would you? It was why not? So let's do it.
Well, fair play to you. And of course, for the Race Day Quads community, you can see now that it's happening. It's that your dollars are being used. And of course, the thing, I'll let Patrick speak up in a second, but the thing I want to say is, I think the most important thing to remember about this is it does not increase air safety in any way. It makes not a jot of difference to what people. I see people now incorrectly saying remote IDs coming, aircraft will know where we are. No, they won't. No, they won't at all. It's nothing to do with that at all. We must not confuse electronic conspicuity with remote ID. They are two different kettle of ball games, and it's sort of worrying that the industry seems to think, oh, it's okay. My DJI whatever's got ADSB in, I must be okay. And it's not. I saw someone today write that. Anyway, Patrick, you probably want to have a say. I've said enough.
Well, I see this as a continuation of, like, from back in 2007 with the policy clarification and all the rest of that, and some of the procedural stuff that Jonathan's talking about. And sorry about the lawyer jokes. You got we're treating you friendly here, Jonathan, because they could come up with a whole bunch of them. But there's what's called an administrative procedures manual that the FAA is supposed to use. There's T's that are crossed and I's that are dotted. And I think what's going on in this case, or finally making a stand is like, hey, there's procedures in place here to make sure that, let's say, the rights of the people aren't being infringed upon. We have administrative rulemaking, which in this country, administrative rulemaking is basically kind of do what you want. And there's no ramifications. It's not the Congress making laws. So what's happening here, and what I'm seeing, we're doing that a lot of FOIA work, and we've been posting those stories. As you see, people don't even want to be attached to this. There were last minute changes. We're going to use the cell phone network. Hey, wait a minute, maybe this isn't going to work. And the cell phone people didn't want to be on board. I don't know. I'm asking who's involved and who the, let's say, legal watchdog at the FAA is on this RID thing. And people are redacting their names. They don't want to be associated. I guess they don't want to be associated with it. For some reason, they personally don't want to be attached.
Well, sorry, I just announced to ask a question. So if I work for the FAA and I am making some big rules, I am an FAA employee, so my name will be known as an FAA employee. Surely my name can't be redacted. I don't understand. How does the redaction thing work?
Well, that really, I should push on that, because if you're in a public employee acting in an official capacity on, on some rulemaking,
that's what I'm thinking out loud.
That's what I asked. I was like, yes, they are public employees. How are they redact their names if you're acting in your official charge? The kicker on the deal for me is that minors, people that are under 18, their, identity and locations are going to, with this, crackpot scheme, will be outed, right? So, and we have had situations here in the United States, and probably globally, I don't know, but, where people have been accosted by people calling them perverts, and, I'm out here flying the plane. So there's a danger issue. There's some privacy issues. There's some other issues. And even this,
but I'm looking forward to it, because I can stand up a group of receivers and work out what my competitors are doing just by watching their flight tracks, and then I can see their schedule, and it's going to be great. I'm going to make a fortune out of this, or I can just go and steal their gear. I'll just go and steal their gear. It's going to be great.
There is that, and there are concerns with the secret sauce aspect that you're talking about, because I have asked people that are doing, let's say, service operations, and say, your competitors could come in, see everything you're doing, and know how you're doing it, why you're doing it, and why you're losing, money like you are, whatever, and that is a concern. But in this community, everybody like takes this wait and see, and we'll see what happens, and I don't want to spend my money, and I don't care. I have a relationship. This is, with the UASIO, and I get a waiver to do whatever I want to do, and I'm making money, and I'm okay.
I'm just about to employ an ex-FAA person. He'll help me along.
Exactly, like the AMA has done, and it's just like a train wreck. I guess they're there to help pull the bodies out of the train wreck. People like Tyler he is messing, with his potential livelihood. I mean, it's happened to me, where the FAA, that guy's like kryptonite. Don't talk to him. Don't even say you know him, because I'm like I don't want to say I'm the only guy, but I'm a vocal opponent of the regulatory dysfunction, and it can affect your income, Tyler. You may see this in the future. So, my hat's off to you, but that's what America's all about, is like, hey, freedom, and we're supposed to be able to do this. We throw tea in the harbor, take 400 years off, whatever. But anyway,
the point I wanted to make, Gary, is regarding safety over at the Race Day Quads. I believe the GoFundMe page, or one of the pages that Tyler has, he's been putting up all the information that we've been putting out, the brief, and I believe the agendas over there. Right, Tyler?
Yeah,
I believe
they're all linked on the GoFundMe page.
Right. So
GoFundMe Race Day Cards. Okay.
yeah, go to the addenda, and then there's this email there's some emails exchanged back and forth between this side, right, with the Department of Justice attorneys. And what's interesting to find out is in there they said in this one response that the final risk assessment was not signed off by the FAA until after the final rule. Final rule.
Hang on. Just say that slowly for me again. Remember, it's me. So there was a risk assessment that needed to be sorted out before they finalized the rule, but they hadn't sorted out, and they published the rule.
And it was signed off after the final rule was published. So you can check that out. There's that example. There's other numerous. I mean, the whole fact. That's one big issue right there, right? Fly a drone punched. So there's just numerous. Just go read the brief and you go read the addenda, and you'll kind of be like, "Hey, eyebrow goes up. Like, what's up with that?" You know. So.
Well, we need data. We've heard that over the last, 17, 20 years, whatever. We need data. It's about the science. So that kind of flies right into the face of that. And this is another thing, even with the griping that I do, I'm just trying to keep the FAA rulemaking train on track. And this, what Jonathan's talking about right here was like, that's a problem. And have you talked to anyone over there about that, Jonathan, or is that just like nobody shoulder shrugs, or we're going to wait for it to come out? And
the FAA made multiple commenters that actually said, "Why don't you any safety data specifically on this floor? Where's the risk assessment?" Multiple commenters were raising this issue that the FAA should have done the risk assessments earlier, presented those for public comment, but didn't. And all those comments. And so, I mean, could the FAA, were they working on this based upon the intel and everything we're gathering? Assessments we believe that were going on started somewhere around the March-April of 2020 is what my intel gathers. So that this was all primarily like a security rulemaking. And what's interesting is in the brief we cite one of the PowerPoint presentations from that secret meeting, the ex-parte with the that were coming in to work with the FAA to violate Fourth Amendment rights and all that, right? And in there it specifically says the FAA said that this isn't going to air traffic. It's not for a safety aspect. It's for a security. And everything that would be basically getting gathered would be getting downstreamed to the government law enforcement agencies, DOD, DHS, and also FBI. So there were numerous, some serious situations there about just almost unlimited government surveillance, what they wanted to try to do with the flight information management system that they was doing with the network ID, with the little graphics. Check out those graphics talking about querying past flights. I can go back and find out where everywhere, well, that was what was planned. It was a banned network, so that's currently not law, but it shows you what was going on, and we don't know the true intentions of everything. That's why we're saying, hey, send it back to another NPRM. We want to find out your true intentions about what is this law enforcement rulemaking.
Can I? There was one other point that I wanted to hit on this with the cohorts. You had your cohorts in the meeting, and I'm a big fan of backroom deals. If you can get in, it's great because you have potential for tons of money. But one of the other things that I didn't like about with the cohorts is people came out of this and they were filing patents. It's a problem. In my mind, you're getting the inside track. You got this technology. You're getting patents on it, and I'm going to be the guy paying for that. I don't think that's right,
guys. I think everyone's running short on time. We need to talk about this again. And if you're just hearing about this for the first time, remote ID is the open broadcast of your aircraft, open to anyone with a receiver, open source, so anyone that can hear it can decode it. Your position, the aircraft's position. That's the bottom line. So get yourselves receivers stood up. Gentlemen, I think you've got to go, haven't you? So thank you very, very much indeed. Well done, Tyler. sticking your neck on the block. Good man. Well done, the Race Day Quads community, for supporting that. I've put the link in the comments for those that want to have a look. So go and have a look, go and have a read, and we look forward to hearing more about this. Gentlemen, look after yourselves. Have a great weekend. We'll talk again soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you, guys.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Well done. Bye-bye. Bye.
Yeah.